So this video is going to show the major differences between aerobic respiration, which we've been focusing on, and anaerobic respiration. So aerobic respiration has been everything we've talked about so far. So aerobic respiration is kind of the right-hand side of the diagram. So we basically start with your glucose with our lovely Hershey's Kiss, our chocolate. We go into the process of glycolysis, breaks down into pyruvic acid. Then we enter into the mitochondria. This is where the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain happen. And if you notice based on the diagram, in order for these processes to happen, oxygen has to be present. Aerobic respiration is basically respiration when oxygen is present. So if oxygen is not present, aerobic respiration cannot occur. So let's look at the diagram of anaerobic respiration. That's going to be focusing on the left-hand side. So we still start with our same piece of chocolate, our lovely Hershey's Kiss. We take our glucose and we break it down through the process of glycolysis and we get pyruvic acid. But you'll notice now the diagram veers off to the left. We do not go into the mitochondria. So the mitochondria is not used during anaerobic respiration. And because we're not using the mitochondria, there's also no oxygen being used. So if you don't have oxygen available to your cells, aerobic respiration can't happen. But another form of respiration, anaerobic respiration, is going to occur. So let's look at some of the major differences. So if I look at what is being produced, in aerobic respiration in prokaryotes, we know we're going to end up with a total of 38 ATP. So that's awesome. We get lots and lots of ATP. However, by the time we are done with anaerobic respiration, not so much. We only get 2 ATP as a result. Okay, so we get very little energy production. This basically explains why humans cannot survive without oxygen. We need to do the process of aerobic cellular respiration because we just need enough ATP to supply the activity of our cell. If we didn't have oxygen for just a short little bit, you can do anaerobic respiration, but you cannot survive on that because 2 ATP is just not enough energy to supply all the work that the cell needs to do. So I want to focus on one more thing that happens during anaerobic respiration, and for those of you athletes out there, or if you've ever run, you might be able to relate to this. So yes, we get 2 ATP that's produced, but we also get something called lactic acid. So think back to a time where you've ever been exercising and you kind of feel a little bit out of breath and you start to feel this kind of pain in your muscles. You feel a cramping in your stomach, you feel a cramping in your muscles, and what's basically happening is that not enough oxygen is getting to your cells. And as a result, your muscle cells, your body cells are doing anaerobic respiration. And you are producing something called lactic acid, and that's pooling in your muscle cells. That lactic acid is what is actually causing that pain in your cells. Thanks, lactic acid. So just a quick summary to kind of go through it. So we know that aerobic respiration, major thing, uses oxygen. In the presence of oxygen, you get lots of ATP. Because we have mitochondria, eukaryotic cells can do it. So it occurs right in both the cytosol or cytoplasm and the mitochondria. Anaerobic respiration basically occurs when there's no oxygen. It's very inefficient. Yeast, so when we did the cell respiration lab, this is what yeast cells were actually doing. So some prokaryotes can do this. And some eukaryotic muscle cells can do that when you don't have enough oxygen present. And it doesn't ever enter into the mitochondria, so it's only happening in the cytosol. So some things in common, of course, they still both require glucose. If you don't have any glucose, you can't do either forms of these. And yes, they do produce some energy.